See, I have asked many times, many questions about poultry shows, up a backyard flock, what breeding should look like, all that kind of stuff. And today with us, we have none other than the legendary Rip Stalvey.
Oh, geez.
And we're going to talk to him about poultry show from egg to champion row.
The Poultry Nerds podcast is brought to you, in part, by the generous support of eggfoam.com, your trusted source to ship hatching eggs safely. They have several sizes available from small button quail to turkey size. Their shippers are cut to fit into United States Post Office complimentary boxes to make your shipping a breeze. Check out eggfoam.com.
Hi, Rip.
How you doing? It's good to be here with y'all, and I'm looking forward to it. What I would like to share with your listeners is information that I wish I had known when I decided to get into showing. And back all those years ago, I started when I was about 17, and I'll be 73 this year. It was very different. There was no internet. There was no instant information. You had to read a book or write a letter or call somebody, and it was a slow learning process. But I think one of the first things that I asked myself when I wanted to show poultry, why did I want to do it? And my biggest reason was that I had realized that it would help me breed better birds long term and continually improve my flock. I knew that I would have to get good birds, that I would have to learn how to condition those birds, and I'd learn how to breed those birds, because it's not simply go grab a hen out of the yard and take her down to a poultry show. Now, you can do that, but you're setting yourself up to be disappointed if you do that way.
And I've seen some that it looks like that's what they did.
It is, no doubt. I did that.
Yeah.
So I knew that. And it was very disappointing for me because I thought I had the show winner there and I didn't even place.
So what do you need to get started then if it's not a hen out of the backyard?
You got to have good genetics. That's the bottom line. I remember somebody convincing me one time I could pay $5 for a bird and improve it through breeding. I probably could, but I soon lost patience with that because that's a very long-term process. If you start with good genetics from what I like to call a foundational breeder, that's somebody who is working with a particular breed, that you are years ahead. You cut years off your learning process.
So that would be the difference between standard-bred and hatchery or utility stock, right?
Oh, absolutely. Hatchery or utility stock never do well in an open poultry show. You've got to have, and some of your listeners may not know the difference, but standard-bred means that those birds are bred to meet a written standard as closely as possible. The big hatcheries I don't have time to do that, and I get that, and I understand. And I don't want to come across as I'm being negative about hatchery birds, because I'm not. I bought an awful lot of hatchery in my life. It's a gateway to wanting better birds. Or at least it was for me, and I know it has been for some other reasons. I found one of the things that I got the most out of showing birds was the camaraderie and the friendships that I've made. Some of my dearest and long-term friends I have met through showing poultry. And there's a great fellowship that goes on in that group of folk. And I realize for some, it's the competition aspect plays a heavy role. Although I enjoyed winning. I'm not going to story to you about that. It was nice and it was fun. But that's not really what I did it for. I did it to make the birds better. And that was as much my reward from showing poultry as any trophies or ribbons.
Okay, so you just getting started with good genetics. What else do you need to get started?
I think, Jennifer, one of the most important things you can have is a good mentor.
Absolutely.
Somebody you can bounce ideas off of, you can go to and get good information. You know that you can trust what they're going to tell you. They're not always going to tell you what you want to hear, and that's because they're being a good mentor. They're going to tell you what you need to hear. You're going to need to decide what breed you want. And good grief, if you look in the APA standard of perfection, and if you're going to start breeding and showing, you need to have a standard of perfection, because that's the standard you're breeding to, and that's the standard that they should go by when they're judging your birds. Some folks invariably ask me, how do you choose a breed? I think I've always been partial to large fowl, so I think I lean naturally towards some of the large fowl breeds. But with today's economy, they're not the most economical choice. Large fowl eat a lot more feed than do bantams, because bantams are roughly 20% of the weight of a large fowl, 20 to 25%. You may want to go the waterfowl route, but they require some special infrastructure. A lot of the times they need ponds and waters and that kind of stuff to facilitate proper breeding. Or maybe you want turkeys. Now, those are the real chow hams of the poultry show world. They can eat a lot of feed, although they're recognized. You don't see as many turkeys in the shows as you used to. When I was a teenager, we used to have some pretty good large turkey classes, and anymore, a lot of shows, if they have turkeys, they've got probably a half a dozen or less.
I was gonna say, this past year at the Ohio National, I saw turkeys in the sale barn, but there were very few that were actually in the show. That goes to what you said. There's not a lot of people showing them anymore.
And turkeys are not for everybody. Let's face it, they require special facilities. They require a lot of feed. They require a lot of high quality feed. And it's a knack to learning how to handle turkeys if you've never done that before, because turkeys are big enough. If they flog you with those wings, they can leave a mark on you.
I don't know, but I have red bourbon turkeys. And
It's my favorite variety.
And my MPIP tester, she says she's always happy to come here because she says I'm the only one that knows how to handle them.
I agree with you. There's a knack to it.
All of my scars on both of my arms are from turkeys.
I can believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I've judged birds. Now, I got my judge's license back in 1994, and I've got a lot of war wounds, but some of the most significant ones have been from turkeys and from geese.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you're going to handle turkeys or guineas, that you need to wear denim sleeves.
And guineas a lot of folks don't realize that you can show guineas now. Wasn't always that way. They were recognized back in the 90s, I think is when they were added to the standard perfection. And when you're choosing a breed, consider your geographic location, because some breeds do better in some locales than other breeds.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the South, we have a lot of hot, humid weather. And how does a bird cool itself? It's got two options. It can pant, or it can use their comb and their wattle as a radiator. So if you're trying to take a bird that basically has these small, low to the skull combs and very small, tiny wattles and breed them in the South, they have a hard time dealing with the heat. And by the same token, birds that have these big single combs don't do well up in Vermont in those northern areas, because the cold will it'll freeze the cold will freeze the combs. In bad cases, frostbite.
Said that, I was thinking about John and his Chanticleers. They practically have no comb or wattle.
Exactly.
And one of those would, if you had one of those that survived in Florida or Alabama, figure on that bird would be huge.
Yeah.
It'd be the only way it would survive.
Yes. You're right. You're exactly right. I think it's important. And the bottom line, choose a breed that appeals to you, something you like. There's so many different breeds and so many different varieties. You can find something out there that you really and you enjoy working with. Because if you enjoy it and you enjoy working with it, you're going to do much better with it. It's going to be a fun part of the hobby. It's not going to be a drudgery. I would also encourage folks to join the American Bantam Association or the American Poultry Association. And once you get a breed, join the breed club. That's where you're going to get most of your help for your bird when it comes to show it. Is because those are the people that work with those birds on a real regular basis. They're going to know more in many cases than the judges have to know, because there's a knack to breeding. Each individual breed, they all require something a little bit different. And that's some of your best sources of information is breed club. And after you selected a breed, what variety of that breed do you want? And varieties can be separated usually by color or by comb types. For example, in Old English games, I can't keep up with how many different color varieties there are in Old English games now. There's a bunch of them. And other breeds like Leghorn, for example, you have single comb and you have rose comb. So that's an example of those. You're going to have to decide whether you want to raise what I like to call self-colored birds. They're solid color, black or white. Or do you want a party-colored bird? These are birds that have patterns on the feathers, or they come in more than one color, like Rhode Island Red. They're basically a dark red-bodied bird with a beetle green tail. And somebody told me one time that's an easy breed to raise, and I said, you never tried to raise them, but I've never been great challenge to work with.
So I work with buff Orpington, and then I was told buff is one of the most complex colors.
Anybody can work with a white Leghorn because it's white. It's pretty simple. It either is or it isn't. The questions you have with that are their feathers at the right angle, and is their body shape correct? With the birds like the reds and the there's a lot more to it. Is the black on the front feather or the back side of the feather? How much is it? How out does it extend? Pretty in depth.
Jennifer is exactly right about buff. The most important thing about a buff-colored bird is that the color is even from top of the bird to the bottom of the bird. One even shade. That's not easy to do. And then you throw in the problem that we have here in the South is you put them out in the sunshine and the color just goes to pot. You get uneven color, you get lifeless, dead-looking feathers, and you get some that are dark-colored, and it's a challenge. Blues are the same way. They have the same problem with sunshine. It dapples their color, so to speak. So all solid-colored birds are not that easy.
No.
And two, the cochins, is it a green hue or a purple hue on their feathers? Because the purple is desirable and the green is.
Yeah.
And that's just a hue. That's not even the color of the feathers. It's just the hue, the way it shines.
Very good.
So
in the showroom, we refer to that as feather sheen. Now, the key to a good feather sheen is genetics, but nutrition can really enhance. Optimum nutrition, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this coming up, but optimum nutrition can really make or break the sheen on a bird.
So I do the black cochins also in the South, which is also a problem. And the people are really shocked a lot of times because my chick hatch out probably 70% cream color. And that cream colored chick will have the best beetle green sheen when it's older.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know why that is?
I don't know why it is. I just know that it is.
It's carrying gold. Real dark black sheen, green sheen on the black, comes from birds that are carrying gold and not silver.
Nice. Good to know.
I think the most important question I get is, how do I find good birds? Where can I go to get good birds? They're not just anywhere and everywhere. Good birds are hard to come by. And one thing that I had a real problem with was I still am a very impatient person. And when I decided I wanted to get good birds, I wanted them right then. They weren't available when I wanted them. So you got to wait. Or if you don't wait, then you wind up settling for second best. And then that sets you back on your timeline of being able to breed and have good birds, because you got to improve what you got before you can get them into the showroom. If you're going out there, take your time. Don't rush in it. I realize today our society is very much a instant gratification society, but that's not going to work in show poultry. It's really not.
Especially large fowl. You're talking 2 or 3 years.
And the length of time it takes for some of these breeds to mature, and you're working with one to coaching.
Yeah.
Orpingtons are not real speedy when it comes to maturing either.
And I'm not a patient.
I can identify with that, Jennifer. Do your research. Find out. Once you decide what breed and what variety you want, do your research and find out who is raising and showing high-quality birds in your breed and your variety that you want. And you can do that if you join the APA or the ABA. They put out a yearbook each year. It's free to members. And it lists everybody in there who's been winning, where they've been winning, how many shows they've been winning, the whole 9 yards. And they do have some awards called Master Exhibitor and Master Breeder Awards. Although I don't put a lot of faith in those. I'm going to be honest with you, because like Master Exhibitor, you don't have to breed those birds to show those birds. You can buy them. That doesn't necessarily
there's some that do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely they do. That means they're a good buyer. Doesn't mean they're a good breeder. And to a little bit, some of the same extent within that Master Breeder Awards. Take your time, do your research, and look for a foundational breeder. Briefly mentioned that earlier, but a foundational breeder is someone that everybody goes to get breeding stock. Somebody has invested in years of their life working with one breed and typically one variety. That's where you're going to get your best birds from. You can find them, again, by referring to the yearbook, looking at the awards they've won, what shows they've been in. It's a real science to researching your bird, but it'll save you so much time.
I'm going to say it took me about 8 months to finally land on a breeder to get my foundation stock from, once I started looking.
And really, that's not bad at all.
Mm-mm.
I was going to say, part of this discussion takes me back to my quest for reds.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
That's actually how Rip and I originally met, because I asked Jennifer questions about these birds. I know a guy that you need to talk to. You need to find this guy. If it didn't work out good, Rip, it's her fault. I'm her for that. He didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. He told me what I needed to hear. And I accepted that. And I started immediately hatching every egg I could because I knew this trait had to be corrected, this trait had to be corrected, so on and so forth. And the only way to do it, out of 100 birds you hatch, you with 10. And so that's what I started doing. And then I was able to hit the proverbial bird lottery and wind up with an amazing line of birds that I was entrusted to take care of. But that took some months of cultivating. You don't just go to a poultry show and see some birds that look really nice, look for ones that have some marks on their cards and find that and then say, hey, you want to sell your birds? Because they're going to look at you like crazy.
It's really all about building a relationship with that breeder. That's what it boils down to. I can't tell you how many times people that have taken the time to build a relationship for me before asking me to sell them some birds. Many times if they've invested that time.
Thank you for joining us this week. Before you go, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can receive all the new episodes right when they are released. And they are released on Thursday mornings. Feel free to email us at poultrynerds@gmail.com and let us know what you think of the show. If you're on Facebook, check us out at the Poultry Nerds and make sure to give us a like and a follow. Until next time, Poultry Pals, keep clucking, keep learning, and keep it exciting. This is Carey from Poultry Nerds signing off. Feathers up, everyone.